Carl Jung, one of the greatest thinkers of modern psychology, left us a truth that resonates deeply in the human soul. Pain is not just a burden we carry, but a doorway to our deepest transformation. Often when we face suffering, we see it as an enemy, something we must escape at all costs. But Jung taught us that within that very pain lies the key to discovering who we truly are and achieving an unbreakable inner peace. Perhaps at some point, you felt that pain consumes you, as if there's no way out or solution. But what if I told you that the pain you fear so much is actually a signal, not a sign of weakness or defeat, but a call from that part of you longing to be seen and heard? Jung described the unconscious as a vast, deep ocean that holds all our secrets, repressed emotions, and shadows. At the center of that ocean, pain acts as a lighthouse, guiding us toward the parts of ourselves we've ignored. Imagine you're carrying a heavy backpack on a long journey. Each step feels harder, and the weight seems to overwhelm you. But one day you stop and open the backpack. Inside, you find not only stones, but also tools, lessons, truths, and a strength you didn't know you had. That's how pain works in our lives. It's not there to destroy us, but to show us what we need to face and overcome. Jung believed that suffering is a universal experience, but what separates those who transform from those who remain stuck is the willingness to look inward. It's easy to blame the world, others, or even God for our pain. But true liberation begins when we take responsibility for exploring it, not to blame ourselves, but to understand that the power to heal and grow has always been within us. In our darkest moments, the unconscious sends us messages, though we rarely understand them at first glance. It might be a recurring dream, a sense of emptiness, or constant conflicts in our relationships. These aren't accidents or mere coincidences, they're symbols, ways our psyche asks us to pay attention. Jung said ignoring these messages is like trying to cover the sun with your finger. Eventually, the truth will come to light, and that truth isn't always comfortable. Often pain is tied to our shadows, those parts of ourselves we'd rather not see. Maybe it's a fear we've carried since childhood, an insecurity that paralyzes us, or an emotional wound we've never let heal. But Jung showed us that facing our shadows is the first step to integrating them, turning them into a source of power instead of a burden. Reflect on your own life. What emotions have you been suppressing? What experiences have you avoided facing out of fear of reliving the pain? These questions aren't easy, but they're necessary because only when we're brave enough to look within can we begin the healing process. In that process, we discover something surprising. We're far stronger and wiser than we thought. As we move forward on this journey, remember that pain isn't the end. It's a teacher, one that challenges us to grow, let go of what no longer serves us, and embrace our true selves. Instead of resisting it, allow yourself to feel it, understand it, and learn from it. By doing so, you'll not only find peace, but also a purpose and clarity that will transform your life. The pain we feel in our darkest moments is, paradoxically, the first step toward a deeper connection with ourselves. In those moments when everything seems to fall apart, something within us begins to emerge, our authenticity. Jung believed that pain forces us to drop the masks we wear to fit into the world and confront our true essence. Though it can be terrifying, it's also liberating. Think of those times when you felt you couldn't go on, when the weight of your problems was unbearable. What got you through that stage? Maybe it was the need to find purpose, or perhaps a moment of introspection that revealed something new about yourself. Jung teaches us that these crises aren't coincidences, but a kind of initiation, as if the universe or our own psyche is testing us, not to destroy us, but to transform us. This transformation process has a name in Jungian psychology: individuation. It's the path to becoming who we truly are, integrating our shadows and our light, accepting both our virtues and flaws. And here's the key point. You can't reach this state without going through pain. Jung said, "The gold is in the shadow," meaning the answers we seek, the peace we desire, lie in the parts of ourselves we avoid. It's natural to want to run from pain, to seek distractions or quick fixes, but these only prolong the suffering. Jung urges us to do something radically different. Face it not as a victim, but as an explorer willing to uncover the treasures hidden within. Because believe it or not, every wound you carry holds a lesson, a learning that can change how you see life. When you start exploring your pain, something surprising happens. You realize you're not alone. Suffering is a universal human experience. At some point, we've all faced loss, failure, or fear. In that connection with others, we find incredible strength. When we share our stories, struggles, and victories, we see how much more resilient we are than we thought. You might be thinking, this sounds good, but how do I do it? How do I face something I've avoided for so long? Jung offers a guide. The first step is to listen to your body, your emotions, your thoughts. When something hurts, whether physically or emotionally, it's a signal. Instead of ignoring it, stop and ask, what is this trying to tell me? What part of me needs attention or healing? The next step is to accept, not to resign yourself, but to acknowledge what you're feeling without judgment. Jung said, what you resist persists, and this couldn't be truer with pain. The more we try to suppress it, the more it shows up in ways we don't understand. But when we accept it, when we give it space to exist, it starts to lose its power over us. Then comes integration, the moment we begin to transform pain into something meaningful. It might be through writing, art, meditation, or even talking to someone we trust. The key is to find a way to give voice to what we carry inside, to let those emotions flow instead of staying trapped in them. In this process, you'll discover something wonderful. Pain doesn't define you. It's part of your story, but not the whole story. The more you work to understand and integrate it, the clearer your purpose becomes. Jung said each of us has a unique calling, a purpose tied to our life experiences, and often it's through pain that we find the clues to uncover it. But this path isn't one you should walk alone. In Jung's philosophy, personal growth always happens in relation to others, whether it's a friend, a therapist, or even a community like this. Surrounding yourself with people who support and inspire you is essential. Though the inner work is personal, the connections we build with others help us stay on the path. As you dive into facing your pain, a powerful truth emerges. Pain doesn't just transform you, it changes how you relate to the world. Carl Jung firmly believed the outer world reflects our inner world. In other words, our relationships, decisions, and experiences are deeply shaped by how we handle our inner emotions, including suffering. Imagine for a moment what it would be like to live without fear of pain, not because it doesn't exist, but because you've learned to face it and use it as a tool for growth. Jung described this state as a balance between consciousness and the unconscious, a dance where both work together instead of clashing. When we reach this balance, our lives start aligning in ways that once seemed impossible. However, this process isn't linear. Some days you'll feel like you've moved forward, only to face a challenge that throws you off center. Remember that these setbacks aren't failures. They're part of the journey. Jung said true progress often comes in spirals. You revisit old wounds, but from a place of greater understanding and strength. One of Jung's most transformative concepts is the shadow. We all have one, that part of ourselves we'd rather not see. It might include fears, insecurities, or traits we've repressed because they don't fit the image we want to project. But here's the secret. The more you deny your shadow, the more control it has over you. It's like trying to cap a volcano with a weak lid. Eventually, the pressure breaks through. Accepting your shadow isn't weakness. It's an act of courage. It means looking in the mirror with honesty and compassion, recognizing both your light and darkness. As Jung taught, only by integrating our shadow can we become whole. And it's in this integration that we find inner peace. Not because everything is perfect, but because we're no longer at war with ourselves. As you begin working with your shadow, you'll notice subtle but profound changes in your life. Maybe you no longer react the same way to certain situations or people. Maybe your relationships become more authentic, less weighed down by expectations or resentment. This isn't random. It's the result of freeing the parts of yourself you once kept buried. A powerful example is how we approach personal relationships. Often our relationships mirror our inner wounds. If we haven't healed certain parts of ourselves, those wounds likely show up in our interactions with others. But as we heal, we start attracting relationships more aligned with our truth. This doesn't mean conflicts disappear. It means we have the clarity and strength to handle them from a place of love and authenticity. Another key part of this work is learning to let go. Jung believed one of the greatest sources of human suffering is our resistance to change. We cling to relationships, situations, or beliefs that no longer serve us because we fear the unknown. But in that clinging, we only prolong our pain. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means trusting that by releasing what no longer resonates, you're making space for something better. Imagine holding a heavy object in each hand. Over time, the weight exhausts you, but you're afraid to let go because you don't know what happens next. Now imagine dropping it. Your hands are free to pick up something new, something lighter and more meaningful. That's how letting go works in our lives, and in letting go, we learn to trust. Trust ourselves, our intuition, and the natural flow of life. Jung described this trust as a connection to something greater, a sense of purpose that transcends the ego and links us to the universe as a whole. This connection isn't something you find outside. It's cultivated within through your inner work. The beauty of this process is that the more you align with yourself, the more the world aligns around you. Opportunities start to appear, the right people enter your life, and most importantly, you discover an inner peace that doesn't depend on external circumstances. It's a peace that comes from knowing who you truly are and living in harmony with that truth. Real change begins when you apply what you've discovered about yourself to your everyday life. Carl Jung showed us that knowledge is worthless unless it translates into action. This is where inner work finds its fullest expression, in the choices you make, the relationships you build, and how you face daily challenges. Imagine every interaction, obstacle, and moment as a chance to practice this new connection with yourself. You're no longer reacting from fear or insecurity. You're acting from authenticity and clarity. This shift doesn't happen overnight, but over time, you'll notice your life transforming in ways that once seemed impossible. One of the most important steps is developing a conscious relationship with your emotions. Jung said emotions are the language of the unconscious, and learning to listen to them is essential to living fully. Next time you feel sadness, anger, or fear, instead of pushing it away, pause and ask, what is this trying to tell me? What need or wound lies behind this feeling? When you explore your emotions this way, you realize they're not your enemies. They're allies guiding you to greater self-understanding. Maybe the anger you feel is a sign you need clearer boundaries in your relationships, or perhaps sadness reminds you of something you need to release to move forward. Every emotion has a purpose, and honoring that purpose is an act of self-love. Another key part of this path is noticing synchronicities. Jung coined this term for those meaningful coincidences that seem to happen at just the right moment. Maybe you think of someone and they suddenly call, or you find a book that answers a question you've been asking. These aren't mere flukes, they're signs you're aligned with your purpose and truth. But to recognize them, you need to be present. We live in a world full of external noise, but the power of synchronicities only reveals itself when you're connected to yourself. Set aside time for introspection, meditation, or simply silence. It's in these quiet moments that answers often emerge. As you work on yourself, it's also vital to surround yourself with people who support your growth. Jung emphasized that our relationships mirror our inner state. If you're surrounded by people who constantly drain you or make you feel inadequate, ask yourself what you're allowing into your life. This isn't about blaming others. It's about reflecting on why you attract certain dynamics and how you can shift them. At the same time, seek connections that inspire you, that challenge you to be your best self. These relationships won't always be comfortable, but they'll be authentic, and in that authenticity, you'll find a sense of belonging beyond appearances. Finally, never underestimate the power of small steps. Transformation can feel overwhelming, like you need to change everything at once. But Jung taught us that deep change happens in the details, in those daily choices, like acting from love instead of fear. For example, next time you face a conflict, instead of reacting automatically, pause and reflect. Ask, what part of me is being triggered? How can I respond more consciously? Or when stress overwhelms you, take a few minutes to breathe deeply and reconnect with yourself. These small acts of presence have a cumulative impact that can change your life. The path to inner peace and individuation isn't easy, but it's deeply rewarding. Every step you take brings you closer to your truth and inspires others to find theirs. As Jung reminded us, when we heal our own wounds, we also contribute to healing the world around us. When you choose to embrace your pain as a teacher, you realize it's not an obstacle, but a bridge to your true self. Carl Jung showed us that suffering, however hard, has a purpose: to open our eyes to our essence and let us live more authentically. This journey isn't simple, but each step affirms your inner strength and commitment to a fuller, more meaningful life. By integrating your shadows, listening to your unconscious, and trusting the synchronicities along the way, you become someone who lives in tune with their truth. That inner peace you've longed for is no longer a distant ideal. It's a tangible experience you create from within. And in doing so, you don't just transform your life, you transform the world around you. Remember, change starts with you. Every conscious choice you make has the power to impact those around you. When you live authentically, you inspire others to do the same. That's the magic of this process. You don't just free yourself. You open the door for others to find their path to peace and fulfillment. Now it's your moment to act. If this message resonated with you, I invite you to do something powerful. Share this video with someone who might need it. Maybe you know someone going through a tough time, wrestling with their shadow, or seeking a deeper connection with themselves. By sharing this, you're not just helping them. You're helping build a community of transformation and support. Leave your comment below. Tell me which part of this message touched your heart or how you plan to apply these teachings in your life. Your words can inspire others who read them and strengthen this network of people committed to personal growth. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. This is just the start of a journey filled with reflections, lessons, and tools to transform your life. By clicking the bell, you'll ensure you don't miss any upcoming videos that will dive deeper into these topics. Every time you engage with this content, you help it reach more people like you searching for answers and guidance on their path. Remember, life isn't about escaping pain. It's about finding in it the key to your transformation. You have the power to change your reality. Do it now. Start today, because the world needs more authentic, courageous people willing to live from their truth. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for being part of this community. Together, we're creating something extraordinary. See you in the next video, and don't forget, change begins with you. Until soon.